All right, so welcome to chapter four, and chapter four is all about decision structures, and you'll see really that just means if statements. So you'll see a lot of if statements. It's switched to at the end. There are a few other little things, but for the most part, we're talking about if statements for this chapter, and I'm mixing things up a little bit with the way that we're going to do this chapter. I've been breaking them up into 2 different weeks and having some assignments through the first week, some assignments through the second week. I'm not doing that this time because you really need to get through the full chapter to be able to do these programs, and so I'm making the whole chapter due on October 13th. So nothing will be due on the 6th. Do not wait until the 13th to start these though, because there's a lot in this chapter. And in fact, just while I'm on my programming lab, you can see that my programming lab 50 points. There's a lot in my programming lab this week. So I mean, if I was to come over here and show you, I mean, this is just for one, and you can see as it works down through. There's a lot of areas for you to practice, and that's really what this is all about. So remember, you get instant feedback with this. If you can't figure out how to do something, you can use the solutions tab, and it shows you some examples of correct ways of doing things and incorrect even if you scroll down. So anyway, so there's that. I wanted to also mention, make sure that you are looking at the programs and the actual the problem statements, that you're reading them and understanding kind of what's going on. I'll just scroll down here. So these are all the different ones we're going to be doing. Oh, matter of fact, as we're talking about that, let's take a look at this one, Roman numeral converter. Okay, so let's see, I pull this one up over here. So in this one, you'll see there's something called a switch statement, and that you'll see that at the end of right towards the end of the chapter. And when you see something like this, use a switch statement, make sure you are actually using a switch statement. So that's what I mean. Make sure you're reading the problem statements and understanding, what's required of you. So I want to see that you can mix it up and that you can actually use a switch statement. All right. So by the time you get to this section in the chapter, you would be able to do this problem with the if statement, but use a switch because it's being asked of you. So make sure you take a look at that. Also, input validation. So your programs, especially next chapter. Right now we're sort of toying with it, but your program should have some sort of input validation. So in this chapter, you'll figure out how to do that. So decide how the program should handle an input that is less than 1 or greater than 1, because we asked up here of the user to enter a number within the range of 1 through 10. So if someone enters a 12, what should happen this week is you'll have a little message and just say, this input's out of range, whatever kind of little message you might want to give them. Please start the program over, enter a number between 1 and 10. Okay, so something like that. And then they'll have to run the program again. Next chapter, when we get to loops, it becomes an easier solution, because what you would do is just loop that, so that if they input a number and it wasn't, in this range of 1 to 10, then you would simply give them a message and just a little reminder message, hey, make sure you're entering 1 through 10, and then it would loop back and run the program on its own, and the user would be able to keep going. So it's kind of cool. But in this chapter, the program will actually end because we're not looping yet, but you can at least give them that message and kick them out and make them start again and enter the right information in there. Okay, so those are just a couple of things about that. Make sure you read the stuff, look at the requirements as you're doing these. Other little things, make sure you're doing your commenting along the way. So as we're kind of rolling along, I see people get a little bit lazier and lazier with that stuff. I know I do too. But make sure that you're commenting things, variables, what each little section is doing, what you're testing for, those kinds of things. All right. So if you have any questions about that stuff, let me know. Otherwise, enjoy a couple weeks of decision structures.